Welcome to my YouTube channel where I'm going to be doing the weekly analysis on the indexes, the commodities, and the crypto. So, without wasting time, let's look at the Forex factory for the upcoming news next week. This is the Forex factory, right? And on Monday, it's a CPI day on the Canadian dollar, the CAD, right? There's gonna be CPI. And on Tuesday, this is an OK news on GBP, the Claremont count change. On Wednesday, there's FOMC on the US dollar and the GBP CPI. You need to be careful about these two. I'm even suspecting that price is going to range on Monday and Tuesday, right? And then this FOMC is going to affect almost all the pairs, right? So most of the indexes, right? And then it will take shape from this. Like price will get momentum or volume from this news, right? The FOMC meeting minutes. And on Thursday, there's the Australian dollar, the employment change. You need to be careful about this one. On Friday, these are all okay news, right? So you need to be careful about this red food news on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday and Friday, these are all okay news. GXY. GXY, I'm just treating this as a retest, right? Is it a retest? I'm treating this as a retest. Why? As you can see, this on monthly time frame, right? And as you can see, the candle from the previous month, it was this huge bullish candle. And then what happened on the next month? You can see the sellers, but the volume was not made, right? There's more volume on this candle than on this candle. So I was actually expecting price to keep going down, right? Maybe it will keep going down, but as you can see, this is not the end of the month, right? So this is just my thesis of the month. That price retested this, right? And I'm just expecting price, if sellers were here, because these were buyers, right? If they failed to break this resistance off, and the sellers took over. So if sellers will really here, right, I'm expecting more sellers driving price to this support zone, this major support zone, right, between 96 to 95, right? This is the major support zone. So let's look at the weekly time frame. What happened last week? So there's this engulfing candle, right? That engulf price from here. You can say it's a double top, whatever you trade with, if you're a chart pattern kind of a person. So what can you even expect next week, right? What I'm expecting next week is price is going to make another retest on this, you can say neckline or this area. Why this area? As you can see, so many activities here, right? So I'm going to be expecting price to retest this and then keeps going down. That is if it breaks through this support zone. I can say this is the first support zone that is going to be an obstacle. But if price pierces through this support zone, right, I'm going to be expecting price to drop to this major support zone. Okay. What happened last week? This is the movement of last week. This is the movement of last week. All these 5 candles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you can see, price opened and it was going down. And then all these tiny candles, right? It didn't reach this area, which I thought, right? Which I thought price was going to retest and then keeps going down. So on Friday there was volume, which made sense on the pairs that are affected negatively or positively related to the DXY or the US dollar index, right? So what am I even expecting this week? I'm expecting this next week. price retest this, you can say on the neckline or whatever it is, to retest this, right, with more volume, maybe on the FOMC, with the it will come with the wick, retest this, and then breaks this support zone, right? Retest it, and then continue heading to the major support zone. That's gonna be my thesis next week, right? On the sales. Because I'm expecting price to keep going down, right? As you can see, that this zone was an interesting zone, like sellers were here. So I'm expecting price to keep going down. So what if it fails? What if it all fails next week? I'm going to expect price to break through this resistance zone, like this major resistance zone, right? And retest it and head to this major resistance zone. I call it major resistance zone between 103, 113, and 109.338, right? This major resistance zone. So those are two of those pieces of mine, right? On the dollar hey. So on the yen index, I told you guys that price is going down. Price has been going down also, right? Price engulfed this, right? It broke through this I can just say it's now supporting into resistance, right? Okay. So as it did all that, right? What am I even expecting next week? Next week I'm expecting price to retest this resistance zone and then keeps going down to this support zone, right? This support zone, which is 666.1, 666.1, right? And if it fails, if it fails, right? If it fails, if there's an intervention, but there's news that there's going to be an intervention in September. So as of now, I'll be expecting more sales. 80% of the positions that I'm going to be taking, right, on all those pairs that are negatively correlated to JPY, I'm going to be buying them, not even selling them once, right? I'm going to be buying them. And if price breaks this, only if it breaks this resistance zone, right? This is when I'll be only taking a or changing my thesis or taking more sales on those pairs that are negatively correlated to the JPY. But next week, I'm just expecting more sales, more weakening of the yen index until it drops to this 666.1, 666.1 zone, right? Support zone. Then when it is here, that's when I will change my thesis. Bitcoin, BTC, USD. Yes, I still remember last week, right? Last week I told you guys that I'm going to be selling Bitcoin. Bitcoin is weakening, right? Why was I selling Bitcoin? Because I was expecting DXY to go up, right? Last week. But then it ranged. But the thesis was correct though. The thesis was correct. So what am I even expecting this week? This week I'm going to be expecting price to retest this and then keeps going down to where? Down to this zone between 62,572.43 and 62,270.70, right? This is going to be the sell thesis, right? And if somehow price breaks this support, breaks this resistance zone, right? I'm going to be expecting more buys up to this major resistance zone, right? So what if price next week, right? It pierces to this support zone. Then I'm going to expect the price to drop down to this major support zone. Let me change the color. This major support zone, right, between 59.136 and 58,606, right? This is where I'm going to be expecting price to reach. But from next week, let's not be ambitious. From next week, right? I'm for the next week, I'm going to be expecting price to retest this. After retesting this, I'm going to be expecting price to drop further down to this support zone. And if it is only break this, right? If it only breaks this, I'm going to be expecting more drop on the Bitcoin, BTC, ESD, right? Gold. So gold last week, as we have seen on the DXY, since it is negative, we correlated to the DXY. Um, this is the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, price has been going up. Right? Price has been going up to this zone. But I also have this. I also have this is my major zone where it is. So for activity, right? I'm expecting something to happen on this. But before we even think about this, let's look at what happened last week, right? Last week, price was just ranging because of what happened with the DXY, right? And this area, it is this area that I'm interested on the higher time frame. So what can we even expect next week? What can we expect next week, right? Next week, if price breaks this resistance zone, right, I'm expecting it to break retest and then head to this area where I'm interested on the higher time frame, right? And I was actually thinking that price was going to drop to this area, right? And then goes to this area of interest on the higher time frame. This was my target on the higher time frame, but price on the range. So what am I even expecting? Due to this, right? Price might break, retest, and then it heads to this zone, or it might drop to this area of support. I can just say 4,207.814, right? Area, and it continues with the trend, like more volume on the pair so that it continues with the trend, right? Since it has been going up, right? You can even see on the weekly time frame. Look at this engulfing candle. Look at it. And look what happened last week. This week, price attempted to break this, but it failed. So what am I expecting next week? I'm expecting price to break, retest, and then goes to this area, as you can see, to this area. That's where I'm expecting price to go. Or if it fails, it comes to this, retest it, and then continues with the buy trend, right? The bullish trend. If it all fails, like if these two pieces, right, plans fails, right, I'm going to be expecting price to break this support area, right? Retest and then fit the drops to this area of 3,959.498. This is where I'm going to be expecting price to drop to. But I'm more into the bullish price section than the bearish. But only if it happens, if it only breaks this support zone. That's when I'll be taking more sales. But for now, I'm going for more buys. Either after breaking this or retesting this, right? These are going to be two of my top priority areas for bullish attempts. Then if it only breaks, that's when I'm going to be taking more sales. So thank you for your time. If you have any suggestions, you can just comment below. Please like and subscribe for more things like this.